Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Coach's Corner University podcast. I am your host, Paul O'Neid, and today I am joined by someone who I think is going to be a great friend. I had the opportunity of being on his podcast about a week ago. Mr. Drew Donaldson, owner of DDT Training. Drew has a very, I will say, wide range of experience in the strength and conditioning world. And I'm really excited to share his journey and what he's doing in the industry now. So, Drew, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, man. I agree 100%, man. When you were on my podcast, I want to say a couple weeks ago, but we don't know when things are going to air exactly. So It might be a couple weeks from now. It might be right now. It might be yesterday. But nonetheless, it was one of those. It really is. It's, like I've told you many times, I'm still learning technology, so I don't even know the right ways to put it. But my point is, in our brief conversation, I was like, all right, this is a guy that I align with. So I think we speak to very similar audiences, and hopefully the people that resonate with you will resonate with me, because you're just one of those guys I can tell off the bat, like, I'm going to agree with 90% of what you say, not because I'm naturally an agreeable person. I'm really not, but because I think we have similar viewpoints on a lot of stuff. So hopefully that translates to the audience as well.
100%. I think it will. Dude, let's give a little bit of a start. I mean, the natural jump off point is that you used to be a professional wrestler, and I fucking love professional wrestling. I think it's the coolest thing ever. Talk to me a little bit about that. How'd you get into pro wrestling?
Man, it's one of those things where I've never been impressed with my own story, probably because I lived it. And then now that I'm doing more podcasts and talking to more people and I'm telling it more, I'm starting to realize, I'm like, okay, I guess this was kind of unique. But, sometimes you get so hyper-focused on your path that you don't really realize that that's kind of a weird path.
100%.
So I'll try to not take the long road for it, because it can very easily go that way, and I tend to go on tangents as it is anyways. But basically, growing up, I was a kid that, like a lot of other kids, like, I loved comic books, I loved superheroes, still do. Recently reconnected with that, and that's another kind of full circle story that I might swing back to at the end. But I grew up loving comic books and superheroes, X-Men, Spider-Man. I was always a Marvel guy, not just because Marvel's the thing now, but because I just hated DC, just didn't do anything for me. Anybody that's into comic books will resonate with that, and anybody that's not is just going to think I'm a huge dork right off the get-go, but whatever. As I got a little bit older, late 90s and whatnot, I was getting into high school. Pro wrestling was super popular. It was the Attitude Era. It was Stone Cold Steve Austin flipping everybody the middle finger and stunning his boss. And I just thought that was the coolest shit on the planet. Like, these were real life superheroes. Everybody was super jacked. This was before the era of pro wrestling drug testing, so everybody was super jacked. And I was like, wow, this is badass. And I got into it at a time where all my friends were into it. And then by the time I graduated high school in 2003, I'm dating myself, most of my friends had fallen out of it. And one of my good buddies still loved it, and I still loved it. And we went to every show that was in the Boston area. We went to every independent show. We went to every WWE show, and it was just me trying to absorb all of that as much as possible. So situationally, it was one of those things where, I'm the definition of ADHD. If I love something, it gets so much effort that I will become an expert in it. If I don't love something, I literally couldn't tell you. It takes me a year to memorize my own zip code if I move. But nonetheless, I ended up going to college at Colby Sawyer University in New London, New Hampshire. I needed something to major in because I just loved professional wrestling, and that's all I wanted to do. So I figured exercise science makes sense, because I can learn how to get more jacked and become a better pro wrestler, because you got to be jacked to be a pro wrestler.
100%.
So that's the direction that I went. I needed a job when I got there, so campus gym seemed like a good place to go make a couple bucks. I found out that through the campus gym there, they would actually pay for a personal training certification. And I ended up getting my ISSA certification when I was 19 years old. And then I started training clients at school part-time as a completely unqualified and unexperienced personal trainer that thought he was the man, because I was taking intro exercise science courses. But
same.
Yep, that's how it all goes. Every year I think I'm super smart. Then I look back at it the year later and I realize, wow, I did not have a leg to stand on. But such is life. That summer after my freshman year, I began actually training to be, if I keep glancing down, I got a dog with a paw injury that's sleeping under my desk, and I keep kind of nudging her so she doesn't pick at it. But if I'm kind of glancing down that way. It's her, but she's good. I have rescue pits and they get in fights and this is what happens. But nonetheless, whole other tangent. See, 19 years old, the summer after freshman year. This was still when the internet was not very much of an internet based on what we know it as now. So I think I did a Lycos search, if anybody remembers Lycos, from my dorm room with my dial-up internet. And I just looked up every wrestling school in the New England area and I emailed them all. And the first one that emailed me back was in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. So as soon as the semester wrapped, that was about hour and 15 from where I lived outside of Boston. So I drove to Pawtucket and drove there with my best friend who was still interested in pro wrestling like I was. And we signed up for pro wrestling classes and never really looked back. So I trained all summer. And then in the fall, when I went back to school, I would actually commute. There's no chance in hell she'll ever listen to this podcast, nor will my fiance, so I can say this. I started dating a girl that had a very nice Mustang with very good gas mileage for a Mustang because I didn't have a car on campus. And if I was dating her, then I could borrow the car to drive to wrestling school, which I told her was an hour away in Manchester and was actually 3.5 hours away in Pawtucket. So twice a week, I did the 7-hour round trip in the afternoon to drive to Pawtucket to continue training for pro wrestling. And then eventually I did find a school in Manchester and I trained there too. And kept doing that all the way up until I was 24 years old. And it got to a point where I was lucky enough to find my way to get scouted by my good friend Mike Bucci. If you watch pro wrestling, Nova and ECW, Simon Dean, the fitness guru in WWE, still a good friend of mine to this day. And he started trying to get me a job and he was like, let's build a case for you. So me and another friend that were a tag team at the time, not the guy I started with. And he's like, let's bring you down. Let's bring you to Stanford. Let's get you in some pre-tapes and I have some ideas for you guys and let's get the ball rolling. And then a couple months after that, when we were really starting to get the ball rolling, the Signature Pharmacy scandal happened. If anybody remembers that, that was when a pharmacy down in Florida got busted for supplying PEDs for hundreds of pro athletes, including half the WWE roster. Half the WWE roster got suspended for that. And since my buddy that was scouting me at the time was on that list and he was now management, not an active wrestler, they had to make an example and he got fired. So he gave me a call. He said, I'm sorry, I can't continue to do for you guys what I was trying to do, but all I can do for you is I'm friends with Dr. Tom Pritchard, who's the coach at the developmental training system in Tampa, Florida. And if you go down to Tampa, maybe I can call him and see if he can do anything for you or take you on as like a walk-on. So packed up my stuff, drove down from Boston to Tampa, Florida. So just got set up in an apartment, went to the WWE training facility, knocked on the door, told Dr. Tom, I'm Mike's friend. You got anything for me? So worked out an agreement where essentially I would come in and I would help the students in the evening classes, which weren't WWE talent. I would help train them and that would kind of pay my way to train with the guys during the day for as far as the contract talent goes. Hopefully that gets me in front of management. That took about 2 years, but finally 2 years later, I got my WWE contract and I was there for about 2 years. Wasn't on TV. I got a chance to travel with the roster for a little while, but it was a great experience. Loved my time there. I was regarded as a guy that was very capable, but I wasn't really a guy that stood out. So 6 feet tall, 220, 230 pounds, decent shape. I was good at a bunch of stuff. I wasn't really great at anything. And when you're there standing next to 7-foot tall giants and third generation superstars and all the guys that are main eventing WrestleMania today, I, at the time at, 26, 27 years old, just didn't stand out enough. And when it came time for budget cuts, it just became, hey man, you're doing great, but we just got nothing for you. So, we're going to let you go right now, go out in the independents, maybe make a name for yourself and let's see what we can do. And, at the time, they weren't really scouring the independents that much. They are now, which, many years later, things are different. But at the time, that
Mhm.
was kind of like a dead end road. And I just kind of looked at it as an opportunity to make myself undeniable. So that's when I got back into personal training full time. I really deep dove into that. And I wanted to learn absolutely everything about how to become bigger, faster, stronger, more equipped to be undeniable. And I was going to become, part of my language, the biggest motherfucker on the planet. And no matter what, I was going to be undeniable, and I wasn't going to be a guy that could be overlooked. And somewhere along the process, I fell in love with the process. I started working with bodybuilding coaches. I started working with strength and conditioning coaches. Somewhere along those lines, I just kind of fell in with Ben Pekulski and Kasim Hansen and the original MI40 crew, and fell into an internship there just so I could learn more. And I was part of the original MI40 intern class that they had over there, which was just kind of a project of Kasim's. Kasim's always wanted to be an educator of educators, so he kind of took those reins up, and I would go there on the weekends for seminars, and I would attend those, and I would learn from those guys. I trained a few times during the week with Joe Bennett, hypertrophy coach, for about a year. And as that was going on, wrestling was kind of winding down. I was really loving this absorbing knowledge on training and nutrition stuff. And at the time, I was still making money during the week as a personal trainer, for a while at a Bally's Total Fitness, which again dates me, and then at a couple independent gyms in Tampa. And then there came a time when the guys at MI40 kind of had to move on. So Joe was starting the hypertrophy coach app. Kasim had aspirations of starting N1 and doing something different for educators. Ben still had his focus on the gym. So all those guys started parting ways, and Ben needed a general manager for the gym. So I took over as GM for the gym, and part of my task was to bring on a new training team. And when you're tasked with replacing a training team that consists of the hypertrophy coach, of Kasim Hansen, of Adam Miller, of Cody Moxley, Bryce Baum, Megan Schwartz, these were some of the most elite personal trainers of all time.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay. And I had a lot of people come and go, and a lot of great coaches. The one that started there with me was, he's still there, Adam Brammer, who is probably the most underrated training and biomechanics guy from a hypertrophy and bodybuilding standpoint on the planet. And it's because he hates the internet like we all do, but he's an incredible resource of information. And there was a time frame there when Ben was like, dude, I need more trainers. I know you know what you're doing. Take some clients. I know you've done this before. You can do this here. Just tell me what I need to do to take care of you, but we need you to take clients. And I took a client and I hit a home run. And I took a client and I hit a home run. It wasn't my first rodeo. I'd been training clients for years, but just never under that, amount of pressure, under that banner. And as I did that, and as things kind of took off and got better and better, it got to a point where I was taking a full book of clients, and Ben had to be like, you know what, I'm going to hire a different general manager for the gym because you have to do this full time. And I filled my books up, and I was working with clients for 40 hours out of the week, which, as you know, working with people is ridiculous. More like that's an 80-hour week. So I did that for years, and I managed to eventually build a great training team. And if they're watching, they all know who they are, and they've all gone on to do great things as well. But that was the greatest learning experience of my life, because I worked 7 days a week. At one point, I was also going through a divorce, so I quite literally lived at the gym. I moved into the break room, so then I was there all the time, and I would sit in on podcast recordings. I would get to talk to all these experts every single week. They were coming in and just filtering through. Ben would just have friends that would pass through. So from bodybuilding legends to doctors to biohacking experts. And, it's like Ben and I are cool. So it's, then Ben, he was like a brother to me for years. And then we lost touch for a little while, but we've always been cool. And it's one of those things where every time I do catch up with him, I'm like, dude, I can never thank you enough for all this stuff that you've exposed me to and given me the chance to absorb. And through there, I just got all these networking relationships, and I'm still friends with Joe Bennett to this day. And he's still a guy that if I can't figure something out, I can reach out to. I ended up reconnecting with Kasim and going out and getting certified through N1. And again, Kasim, Adam, Cody, those guys out there are guys that I reach out to this day if I can't figure something out. And I still regard all those guys as like the very best in that particular realm of bodybuilding, hypertrophy, biomechanics. And it's just, I've made so many contacts over the years. I've worked with guys from Dave Palumbo to Dr. Scott Stevenson, and just all these people that, I'm not a religious guy, but I can say I'm blessed to have had the opportunity to work with. And to me, it just became never enough. So I started collecting certifications. I linked up with our mutual friend, Jordan Shallow. I got certified through Prescript levels 1 and 2. I went through Dr. Dwayne Jackson's Prescript nutrition courses, the gut health and performance coaching courses. I'm currently enrolled in Jason Theobald's Scooby Prep, Scooby U functional health course. I signed up for a Lane Norton course at one point, and I don't know Lane, and I don't think I like him, but I don't know him, so I can't really say that. But he's a smart guy, so let me see what you got to offer. And now, like we talked about, I have this podcast where it's like, man, now I feel like I'm just stealing, because I get to get these consult calls that people value at $600, $700, $800, $900 an hour, and I'm getting them for free because I'm making them some Instagram reels. Like, oh shit. So to me, it's, maybe it's a chip on my shoulder. Maybe it's because I grew up without a dad and I'm trying to prove something to somebody that doesn't exist. But dude, I want to be good at everything. I want to be a multitude of various facets of information. And the podcast is a way to kind of spread that out, but also it's selfishly a way that I can just come up with all these tools in my tool belt to work with my clients and to expand my training business, and just to continue to be a resource for information. I've told my business partner and I, we just, we're big visualization and talk it into existence people. And I tell them all the time, like, just reiterating the goal, man, is I want to help so many people that I can make so much money that I can stop caring about money, that I can just focus on helping people and just doing cool stuff. So, and that's been the goal ever since.
Dude, I think it's really powerful that you can sit back and share your story and kind of reflect on it. Because one of the things that I keep returning to whenever I invest in like marketing education is how much of a superpower your story is. So similar, like funny enough, small world, you and I were in Tampa at the same time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So like I was from 2010 to 2012. And then I was back from mid 2013 to 2014. And actually one of my biggest regrets when I was in Tampa, I wasn't into bodybuilding at all, but MI40 was like right around the corner from the gym that I was training at.
Like probably literally right around the corner.
Yeah. Do you know Chandler Marchman?
It sounds super familiar.
He used to own a gym called Elite Strength and Conditioning, or the Man Cave. It was like, right. Yeah. So like I used to train there. But one of the things that I wanted to pull out from that story mainly was the consistent investment in you furthering your education. And whether that was just simply putting yourself in the room with other people or spending the money to do it, because the certifications that you mentioned are not cheap.
No, not at all.
At what point, and I think this is kind of a silly question to ask, but I think that people need to hear it. Do you think at some point you could ever know enough?
So I think the simple concept that at some point you can know enough is what's hindering most people. Okay. And in some cases, they're making that determination ludicrously early. They're making that determination based on the fact that they've had a couple clients win a couple regional bodybuilding shows because they had the foresight to remove carbs and add cardio. I think in some cases, people put in an incredible amount of effort and accumulate an incredible amount of knowledge, or just an incredible amount of practical experience. And when I say these things, I'm not going to name names, but I'm thinking of specific people that are peers and friends. And whenever you settle at that position, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot in one way or another, unless you're simply doing it because you're ready to retire and you don't want to contribute anymore, which is fine too. But first and foremost, there are so many aspects to this industry that you can master, or at least become more well-versed in, to become a wealth of information and a more beneficial person to people in your life, to your clients, to anybody that you're trying to help. But beyond that, we're constantly learning so much more. There's every year, how many amazing discoveries do we make in the worlds of nutrition and training and just general scientific application coming out and just telling us different things that we know now beyond our own practical experience. Now, somebody will counter that by saying there hasn't been a significant breakthrough in strength training in XYZ years. Maybe nothing significant in the determination or in the estimation of that individual, but do you really think you know everything? Do you know every aspect of every energy system? Do you know every aspect of every alternative type of training? Like, do you know all about everything from blood flow restriction training to glycolytic lactate threshold to neurological training and training within the phosphocreatine system for the benefit of preventing degradation later in life? There's so many facets, and those are this is really me just spouting off big words. But there's so much more that we can always learn. And maybe I go overboard with things sometimes, and maybe it's because my superpower is that I just love this shit. Like, I would be studying this stuff if it wasn't my job. And that affords me a little bit of leeway to want to do more. But no, it's one of those things where it's, unless you're already an expert, and by an expert, I mean a legitimate expert, like one of the best in the world. And maybe even then, if you tell me you're done learning, this sounds harsh, but I'm losing a little bit of respect for you.
100%. Yeah, I agree. I've always looked at my education as a means to just expand my toolbox. And one of the things that I think is a prerequisite for being a great coach is an obsession. Like, we're absolutely obsessed about this. That's why, we're both sitting here with tank tops, fucking over 200 pounds, lean. We train hard, and because we love it, not because we think we need to do it. But that to me is the motivation to keep learning. That's why I keep investing into mentorships. That's why I keep investing into, different courses or different certifications, because the more tools that I have in my toolbox, the more people I can potentially help, which is ultimately the goal, as you mentioned before. But where for me, education is so much more important, I actually err more towards the side of believing that there hasn't been significant discoveries. Like, I genuinely believe that. But what's happening now is you have more people applying that knowledge in an artful fashion, simply because they ask better questions, simply because they learn more stuff, and simply because they can think laterally. So talk about, a gut health certification. Cool. I learned about gut health. But now when I think about gut health, I think about inflammation. I think about nutrient absorption. I think about stimulus to fatigue ratio. I think about training load. I think about the intersection between stress response and inflammatory response. And now all of a sudden, this one course on gut health has laterally thought me all the way into, well, how can I leverage that into getting my client to train harder? What does training harder mean? How can I scale the stimulus? And so on and so forth. So, like, that's fucking cool, man.
Mm-hmm. And it goes so much further too. I mean, you could branch into any facet and it's still kind of feeding the beast, so to speak. Like you mentioned, taking marketing courses. Somebody might look at that and just say, well, yeah, but you're not learning anything more about your craft. And I would beg to differ to the highest degree, because sales and marketing isn't simply a situation of how can I get more people to spend more money? Is that an end result? Yes, it is. And does money drive the whole process? I mean, maybe not in terms of our passion, but in terms of having bills to pay, yeah, that is important. But from a sales aspect of it, you have to look at it like, I'm not learning about sales and marketing so I can con you into doing something. I'm learning about it so I can communicate to you the value of what I can provide. Because if you're remotely interested in anything that I offer, it doesn't mean that you're fully bought in.
Right.
So if I need to learn more to get you to fully buy in, is the end result that it puts more money in my pocket? Well, yes, obviously. But is that really the purpose? Is that really the overarching thing? Like, no, I just might need a little bit of extra help in learning how to convince you that this is something that's worthwhile. And then it goes into different facets of things, just like general communication, neuro-linguistic programming. Like, what can we learn to communicate better what you need to learn. Like, not even how do I sell you this? How do I tell you this? How do I communicate it in a way that you can understand? How do I
Yeah.
get through to you? How do I talk to you and build a personal relationship that's going to get you to buy in and believe and trust me enough to actually apply the process and then to make these changes to your lifestyle with it that'll hopefully carry on for the rest of your life. So it goes so beyond even one small facet.
Yeah, and I think you hit on something so important about the marketing process in that if I do a good job in my marketing and my sales, that starts the coaching relationship off on such a better foot because you're already bought in. I've already shown you in ways that you understand that this thing can help you. And then the results are going to come that much faster. So by virtue of learning about marketing, you've actually increased the efficacy of the intervention that we're about to go through. And yeah, again, it does put money in your pocket, but at the end of the day, if you don't know how to sell what you're doing, you're going to help zero people.
Exactly. And I think it's important to also communicate a little bit of who you are as a person,
Mhm.
because I think there's so much of a divide in the fitness industry about how we're supposed to communicate. One thing that I can't stand is you'll see it all the time, and it's just like, oh, I'm afraid to tell my coach, or my coach is going to be mad.
Oh yeah.
It's like, well, look, I'm not trying to intimidate you or scare you into doing something. Like, do I want to hold you accountable? Yes.
Mhm.
Accountability is huge. But the whole like, oh no, my coach is going to be mad. Unless that's like a sarcastic thing, like, oh, he's going to be so frustrated. I've messed up again. Like, if you're actually fearful of your coach being mad, and there's people out there that are like this,
Oh yeah.
it's there's a problem with that, man. There's a big problem, and it always comes down to, like, to me, and this isn't a generalized statement. I don't want anybody to think I'm singling them out or saying that they're bad because they might do this, but the coach that generally preaches endlessly about discipline and suffering and embrace the pain and stuff like that, it's like, all right, I understand that if it's an extreme endeavor like competitive sports or bodybuilding, there's going to be times when you do have to dig a little bit, because that's
Oh yeah.
very different than lifestyle coaching. That's very different than getting healthy or getting lean or building self-confidence. That's a whole other planet. But if you have to rely on just, if you're suffering good, and God forbid, it's like, don't be, can we, do you curse on here or do you not
Yeah, yeah. Go
curse? Or
ahead.
do you,
Go
if
ahead.
it's like, don't be a fucking pussy, like, I'm like, oh my God, like, dude, nobody should be giving you money. Like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
that's not how you coach people.
I agree. And I mean, I mean, we could go down a complete rabbit hole on that one, but I want to pull it back to the other aspect that really jumped out to me during your story was that, putting yourself in the room and not being afraid to be the dumbest person in that room.
Oh yeah, dude. Like, if you're not the dumbest person in the room when it comes to what you're trying to be good at,
Mm,
you're in the wrong fucking room. Now that you told me I could curse, I'm going to go fucking ape shit with it. Sorry.
do it.
But it's like, that's never, I never want to control the conversation for the majority of the time. Like, that's not where I want to be, because that's not making me any better. Now, there's a time and place for it. It's kind of what I do. That's my career. That's my profession, is to make people better, to bring them up to my level so they can have my level of understanding.
Mhm.
Fitness for me is so fun now. Like, I'm 40 years old and I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my life, because
Same.
I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I can say that I've reached a level of mastery. Maybe I'll get to a point where other people will say it about me. And by all means, like, thank you, whoever might say that, because that's a huge compliment. I'll never feel that way, but I can settle in on the fact that I don't have to write stuff down for myself anymore. I don't have to really try to figure anything out. And I can go, oh, I'm going to try to get really, really stupid lean right now.
Yeah.
And I can do it. And it's kind of easy. And if I want to shift gears and go, like, I want to hit a PR on my deadlift, I can do it. If I want to get really big, I can do it. If I want to get really big, I'll have to do stuff that I don't want to do necessarily. But situationally, like, I don't have to really think. And, like, it's, what time is it? It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon right now when we're recording this. I've been basically surviving off of some KE4 ketone esters and a little bit of kratom extract and some caffeine today. And I know exactly what that's doing to me, and I know exactly what that's optimizing. I know exactly what I need to do for the rest of the day. I don't know what I'm going to eat. I'm going to go see the new Marvel movie tonight at like 9 o'clock. So I got to eat XYZ at some point in time. And when I get back, I might eat XYZ, and probably not going to have time to train today. That's not going to take me any further away from my current goals because I know exactly how to manipulate things tomorrow and what to do for the rest of the day.
Right.
And when you reach that level, and I'll call it mastery, even though I hate that because I don't think it is, but when you reach that level of mastery, like, I don't stress the small things. I don't stress my health. I don't stress my body composition goals because I just know how to do it. And I want to be able to get everybody that's working with me to that point, which is a little counterintuitive because that means eventually they won't need me at all. But if that's not the overwhelming purpose, then, what is? Because it's so much fun now.
That's a great point, though. I mean, that's a great point because ultimately, if you're really good at your job in this industry, you're kind of coaching yourself out of a job, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're preparing people for autonomy. I've always been of the mind that I want people to work with me not because they have to, but because they want to.
Yes, 100%.
It's like, I know that, like with my powerlifting clients, like I know that if you feel this way, you need to modify your training session in this manner. You don't necessarily need me for that, but what you do need me for is to give you reassurance that it was the right choice, to let you know how we're going to modify from here on out, and then teach you again how to continue to do that. Like having a guide to me is so necessary, whether we're talking about business, whether we're talking about training, nutrition. Having a guide to take the stress off your shoulders of that decision-making process, especially when you do have big goals. Like for the most part, I coach myself, right? I write my own training, I do my own nutrition. But when I decided that I wanted to do a show in August at some point, I was like, I need someone else's eyes on me because I don't want the stress. I'm still doing my own training because I enjoy it, but the nutrition side, the modification of the macros and stuff like that, I don't want to be. I also know my tendency is to push way too hard, way too fast. But that to me is the role of a coach. It's like they're just a guide. They're an accountability partner. They are a mirror that holds up, that gets held up to you when you need your beliefs challenged. And the coach that you choose needs to be someone who does that for themselves. Like they have to walk the walk. And throughout your entire journey, you've walked the walk and you've helped other people walk the walk. What to you stands out as perhaps the most pivotal inflection in your own coaching journey?
So the biggest thing that I've kind of learned and developed as I went is that the more variety you have in your development, the more beneficial that's going to be to anybody that you work with. So for me, one of the biggest things has been having a multitude of different personal interests over the years. So in walking that walk and in developing my skill set as a coach, at some point or another, I've been in most of the situations that I'm trying to coach people through. Mm-hmm. And that's not always going to be the case. I mean, I've never been a premenopausal woman before, and chances are I never will be. Like, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that anymore. It's a weird climate out there. That's
I think we can rest on the fact that you will never be a premenopausal woman.
Most likely not, at least in my opinion. This is why I said I didn't want to talk about politics or EDM. Those are two things that I will not get into because they can go any direction whatsoever. So I'm going to get a bunch of hate on the EDM thing now, but sorry guys, I don't understand it. Nonetheless, so at some point, and like this has been just a random strength that I developed through having somewhat of a unique journey, is I've walked in the shoes of a performance athlete. Mm-hmm. In my unique performance, I also had to look like a bodybuilder, and that made me become interested in bodybuilding. I also happened to have very lucky genes in terms of my genetics are, hopefully, knock on wood, tailored for longevity. I don't have a lot of disease in my family. I don't have a lot of really anything detrimental on either side, my mother or my father's side. But the one thing that we do have on both sides is anxiety. And I've had to deal with anxiety, and my anxiety has tended to shown itself in anxiety over my health. So I've developed over time a bit of neuroticism about my own just general health. Nothing debilitating. That definitely was not the right word to say that. Nothing too detrimental,
Yeah.
but situationally debilitating. That was the word that.
You put
Sorry,
the
I've been
wrong
on the.
emphasis on the wrong syllable.
I've been I've been podcasting all day, and sometimes it tends to deplete me a bit. But nonetheless, it's never like I was living in a bubble like
Right.
with my fingernails and my hair grown out and just afraid of the outside world. But there's been times where probably more than most people, I've looked back and been like, ooh, that 2 years I spent at 275 pounds eating Anadrol like it was candy was probably
The good
not
days.
great. Yeah. But what did they do to me now? And then it became like, ooh, that was 2 years straight of on that, moderate dose of GH. What did that do to me now? Or when I was tanning incessantly all summer and then all winter in tanning beds, what did that do to me now? So that led to a phase where I think when I was like 35 years old, I had that, and it hits everybody at some point like, oh shit, I'm like halfway done. Like, started looking at a lot of things that I've done and a lot of things that I've did and a lot of self-reflecting in a positive way. And that's where a lot of neuroticism came from. And that's when I took the deep dive into health. And I was always the type to, okay, let's, look into not taking an AI and let's look into taking some citrus bergamot for this reason. And let's get the blood work done quarterly for that reason and whatnot. But as my anxiety kind of showed itself in some neuroticism, that's when I just got super into monitoring all the health metrics. And then through time and, therapy, there's no shame in therapy. I was like,
No.
oh, cool. I've got a handle on my anxiety right now. It's like, and, first time in my life in my late 30s into now 40 years old. And it doesn't really bother me as much. I got a handle on it and I don't feel neurotic about my health anymore. But holy shit, I learned a lot about it when I was. And now, we talked about this previously. We tend to be two of the guys that people go to when other people kind of drop the ball or mess them up and they need to fix some stuff. And now, just because, again, I was a lucky recipient of learning through my own interests and neuroticism, that I'm like, oh yeah, I know a lot about lipids.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, I know a lot about cancer prevention. I know a lot about gut health. I know a lot about, and it just kind of spiraled into all these different tools out I now have in my tool belt. So it's one of those things where sometimes it is hard for me, kind of going back to what we were talking about before about continued education. It does get a little difficult for me to really kind of drop the hammer and rant and tell somebody this is what you need to be doing to be a good coach, because I'm aware of the fact that maybe I'm just a little bit more into this than a lot of people for my own selfish reasons. But I mean, it's given me the opportunity to dive into all these worlds I might not have jumped into otherwise without, these neuroticisms and without this multifaceted interest base stemming from my own selfish endeavors. Maybe I would just be a happy and proficient bodybuilding coach. And then I wouldn't know what to do when somebody had a, beginning stages of buildup of plaque in their arteries, or God forbid, like a history of dementia in their family that they say, hey, how can I prevent this? Maybe I'd be scratching my head going, I don't know, more Winstrol? Like, who knows?
More Winstrol is usually the answer to a lot of questions in my experience.
I've heard that it's great for dementia.
Great for dementia.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where I am of the belief that if you're not obsessed with this, get the fuck out. Like, if you are not so driven to be the best version of yourself, number one, but then not only that, but so driven to be the best version for your clients, we don't need you here. We don't need you in our industry. If you're just here to collect a paycheck and sell your challenges, get the fuck out. I've been doing this, just as long as you. I think I got my first coaching client when I was 18 years old. So 19 years in this industry. I've seen so many people be victimized by coaches who have mailed it in and given terrible advice. And I am, and maybe this is naive, but this is me giving people the benefit of the doubt. I don't think people suck on purpose. I don't think people show up as shitty coaches because they're like, I'm going to fuck this person up. I just don't think that exists. But negligence is the same thing. And my journey and your journey there's a lot of alignments. I mean, me competing at powerlifting at the level that I did a lot of things that I would never advocate for people to do ever. And I also am in a situation where none of that stuff affected my health. My blood work is great. Aside from the orthopedic injuries, we're good. So I almost see it as my duty to help people prevent the mistake, to help people avoid the pitfalls that I fell victim to. Because I was especially when it came to powerlifting, like if you were, I remember a powerlifter telling me one time that if you were taking less than 3 cc's at a time, you're wasting the syringe.
I've heard that too, unfortunately.
Or they don't give you a trophy for taking the least amount of shit. And this is the advice that I was given when I was younger. And I think now coaches like us who know better and have seen results happen without taking those massive, like fucking gross, negligent risks to the future, we owe it to that younger generation. And
so,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
My biggest problem with negligence is that it most often stems from arrogance. Now,
yes.
If it stems from ignorance, then in my opinion, it becomes more of an issue of scope of practice. If you're ignorant to something and it leads you to becoming negligent in practice, you need to scale back and realize what your scope of practice is and what you're actually available to coach on. Because there'll be a lot of people that'll listen to this and just go, well, what the fuck, man? Like, should I just not do anything until I'm an expert? Not the case. Mm-hmm. But you need to understand what's within your realm, what you're actually able to do. And in a lot of cases, there's so many coaches out there. And we discussed before, like the difference between oversaturation versus just a very popular industry that's easy to get into. Yeah. There's never going to be a shortage of clients ever. And every year we get further away from that because luckily more people are at least becoming interested in fitness and the internet grows and the fitness community online grows. There's never going to be a time where we can't all make tons of money. So oversaturation is probably the wrong word, but there's so many coaches out there. There becomes this fear of telling somebody no or telling somebody I don't know. Because there's this fear, because we know, like we might be comfortable now, but there was a time where every penny from every client was incredibly beneficial and incredibly important. So when you have that fear of scarcity brought on by just not being at the level you want to be on yet, it becomes terrifying to say, I don't know, or no, you can't do that. Because unfortunately, the reality of the matter is there's a coach right down the proverbial street that will tell them what they want to hear or tell them that they can do it or tell them that they should do that. So if you have the type of client or the type of relationship with your client where you feel that you might lose them to a situation like that, you're starting out on the wrong foot. So I understand negligence based on ignorance because of fear. I don't give it a pass, but I understand it. The other side to that is negligence based on arrogance. And that's when you can look at the coach, and there's a few people that I get along with, and I'll never say anything about them publicly where that will single them out or make anybody, at least somewhat knowledgeable about who I'm talking about. I'll never say anything negative about anybody, even if they're the worst fucking person on earth. I'm not going to be, that's not my place. I don't do that.
Me too. Yeah.
But I do know of many people that have the financial means and the tenure to be better than they are, but they refuse to become that way because what they've been doing, quote unquote, has been working. Yet I can read through any plan that you've written in the last 5 years and I can rip it apart from not only an effectiveness standpoint, but from a safety standpoint. And to me, that's arrogance. If you have the money, take the courses, continue the education. If you get a new client and you're not in the hole debt-wise and you need that money right now, that's money you're not used to. Invest that in education, because then you'll get 2 more clients and then you can make more money. There's no excuse not to better yourself at all.
Listen, Drew, man, you're speaking to a level of humility that I don't think a lot of people are used to. I think a lot of people are used to hearing the people that they look up to in the industry speak with a level of arrogance rather than humility. I'm wondering, was that humility earned or learned for you?
Well, to me, honestly, it probably comes from a place that might not be perceived as positive. Again, I'll reflect it back to, I learned a lot about health and longevity based on my own neuroticism of what did I do to mess up my health and what's going to happen in, situations like that. And maybe it's a case of, having a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, because in the back of my head, maybe I don't think I'm where I should be. And, that's probably not the best place to be. And it's probably not good if that leans into self-doubt, which admittedly over my career, it has many, many, many times. I started every endeavor and every big move I've ever made in my career. What I can look back at now was probably 2 years too late, because I was afraid to put myself out there. Because I looked at the people that I looked up to. I looked at guys like Cassim and Joe and guys like that in the biomechanics world, where I said, oh man, I don't want to post educational stuff because if I get it wrong, that'll disappoint these guys and they'll tear it apart, which never would have happened. They're the type of person that if I was wrong, they would DM me and be like, hey man, look at it from this way. But I had nothing to be worried about. And I knew enough that I wouldn't post anything like that to begin with. So to me, it was always, I'm not quite ready, so I need to be better. So that at times was a detriment, because I didn't take the steps and put myself out there in the time frame that I feel like I should have. I held back too much. But it's just like, I feel that if you're honest with yourself and you operate within your scope of practice, you will continue to get better. And then your scope of practice will expand. Absolutely. Then your tool belt expands. You get more tools. You build more confidence. You can solve issues easier. So to me, it was just a case of like, dude, you know what you know. Apply what you know, because it's way more than a lot of people. And if you don't know something, go fucking learn it. And don't fake it till you make it. Like, ask somebody. Works. Tell your clients that you don't know this. And one of the coolest things that I ever heard, and probably this is one of the things that I kind of just picked up and just started doing before I realized that I picked it up and reflected back on it later. And it was Dr. Dwayne Jackson during, I think it was the first Prescript nutrition course that I took. And he just said, dude, have a network. If you're uncomfortable with something, but you have a network of people, you can check with those people and they'll help you. And guess what? If you have to respond to a client and they have a question, you have to say, I don't know, but let me check. I know a doctor that might, or I know a coach that's an expert in this, or I know a researcher or an educator or just a person that's been working with this specific issue forever. Your client's not going to go, well, fuck you, give me his number, I'm going to hire him. In all fairness, they're going to go, wow, my coach is not only a great coach, but they have a network. That's cool as shit. They know a guy for this. That's super awesome. Because nobody that you're working with expects you to know absolutely everything. And if you have a network of professionals, that's pretty fucking cool.
Well, they'll also respect your professionalism in knowing that you're not going to put them in a position that is potentially harmful for them. Because like that statement of, I don't know, but I can find out for you, tells them that you're going to go to the next level to help them. And so it continues to build that trust. And you and I spoke about the coach-athlete relationship being built on trust when we spoke on your podcast. And I think anything that we can do number one, to put the client in a position to feel calm and to not have the neuroticism or the worry, in that knowing that you are going to be solutions oriented and that you are invested in their process. That's so undervalued, understated, I would say, as a coaching trait.
Well, it's honesty as a person that
Yeah.
shines through. And at the end of the day, if you're looking at things from a simple sales aspect, people buy people, they don't buy things.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
what better way to sell yourself than to be a genuine, honest, intelligent person that cares about the end result of the client? So that said, there's nothing negative about I have to figure out. And one other thing that people tend to kind of overlook, even coaches, even myself at times, the amount of time, effort, money, passion that we put into this,
Mm-hmm.
the superpower that it's given us is not only the knowledge base that we have, it's not only the files that are in the file cabinet that we can pull out at will, it's the ability to add more information and to know where to go. I have no shame in referencing a research study or having to pull a research study to find something out or look into what direction I want to go with something, because holy shit, those things are fucking hard to read. And the fact that I can pull one up and go, what did they do? They did this. What happened? This happened. The majority of people, this happened. Let me look into this in a more practical sense. Let me look it up over here. What's the mechanism of action of this? What does this supplement interact with? And in 15 to 20 minutes, if not maybe a couple hours, I can decipher all this into, oh, hey, I looked it up, and based on this and this, what you should do is this because of this. A lot of people can't do that. So I'm proud of that, man. I'm just as proud of being able to do that as I am just knowing the answer inherently. Because you know as well as anybody, sometimes we get some wild shit, you know? Sometimes it's a situation where, and to this day, it's still some stuff that I might not know. Like if somebody comes to me and all of a sudden they're like, I just got diagnosed with Crohn's. What should I take now? Your doctor's advice. I'm not your doctor.
Yeah.
Hey, I just got diagnosed with Crohn's. The doctor said, do this and do this and do this. How do we proceed otherwise? Okay. That one I happen to know because it's a situation I've been in several times. But if I didn't, give me 24 hours.
Yeah.
What not to do, like at least, or make a phone call. Dr. Jackson, who's been my reference point for multiple stories now. Hey, got a few questions about Crohn's. Situationally, there's different levels to how we can proceed, but there's always a way to proceed. And it's just this weird fear about, wait a minute, my client's going to find out that I'm not the greatest resource of information on planet Earth. Well, dude, if that were the case, chances are you'd be making way more money doing something way more important for way more of humanity, and you wouldn't even be working with this person to begin with. So maybe you want to be perceived as the best.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. We should all want to be perceived as the best. But to be perceived as the best, we should be trying to be the best. And in trying to be the best, we have to realize that we'll never be the best.
Yeah, I think it comes back to that humility. And you spoke a little bit about how that humility kind of guided your thirst for knowledge, but it also hindered you in certain ways. And I think that, oftentimes our biggest assets can be liabilities in a lot of instances, whether that's, I had this conversation with my therapist earlier this week, and that like, I'm not stubborn, but my level of effort is kind of infinite. I can always try harder. Yes. So it's, am I beating my head against the wall, or am I searching for a door? Am I climbing over the wall? Am I looking for a way around the wall? Or am I just trying harder at doing the things that I'm doing? And sometimes it bites me in the ass, but most of the time it leads me to a lot of success. And all of these things are so important for us to introspect on. But I think one of the most important things that you said was staying in your lane, staying in your scope of practice. Even when it comes down to like, oh, I don't want to make this post because so-and-so will rip me apart. It's like, yeah, maybe then you shouldn't make that post, and you should make a post about something that you actually have some expertise on. until you have expertise in the area that you wanted to post about initially, and then you can go ahead and make that post.
Mm-hmm.
I think
And
that's, yeah.
in looking at making those posts, do what you're comfortable doing and be comfortable doing what you know. And if you don't know it, get better at it. And the one thing is, and this might even be segueing off in a completely different direction, and that's not my intention, put stuff up to help people. Put stuff up to educate people. Put stuff up to entertain people, sure. Again, people by people, show your personality, everything
Yeah.
like that too. But don't put stuff up. Like, I'm just going to be specific in what the hell I'm talking about. Stop making those fucking stitch videos where somebody will say something and then it's you making a weird face. And then when they're done making their point, you talk about how stupid their point was and how much better your point is.
Oh my
Like,
God.
it's like, geez, are we trying to actually help people and make cool content and educate and build our businesses? Or are we just trying to like have this giant internet dick measuring contest to tell you how many people I'm smarter than? Because that's not helping anybody. That's just a random annoyance. But
If you listen, if you need to tear people down to build up your point of view, you need to check yourself a little bit. Um, the last thing that I want to touch on is like, obviously now you're coaching online, you're doing one-on-one coaching. Where do you see the growth of your business? Because you've gone from personal trainer to then gym manager, then back to personal trainer, and now into running an online business. Where do you see the future of DDT training, using your past experiences, looking at the market, and how you can best serve the most people possible?
so it all comes down to that just goofy mantra that I referenced before, that I always just spitball it right back off my business partner, because it's always, we constantly, and my business partner is one of my best friends. So it's one of those things where we have 2 or 3 calls a week where it's just long-term picture, short-term picture. What should we do with this? What should we do with that and whatnot? And again, it's just, it's half joking, but it's really at the same time, it's serious. It's help so many people that I make so much money that I can stop giving a shit about money, that I can just focus on helping people.
Mm-hmm.
Because the biggest thing is, call this arrogant, call this cocky, but I would love to just build a legacy. And the biggest thing, it's like, I might not be remembered one day for a specific accomplishment, but if I can make as big an impact as possible, like what cooler thing to leave behind than that? So the specifics of it, DDT method or DDT fitness is all encompassing. DDT method is my one-on-one coaching service. Real Primal Human is launching over the summer, which will be kind of a higher ticket coaching course. And between both of those aspects, Real Primal Human will have several coaches that all train to work under me that will be running the coaching. I'll be doing group calls on that one. That's really just a way to expand and help more people. And there'll be a sales and marketing team with that one that will kind of do their best to put that out in the ether and attract the right people in. And then my one goal is, before signing on with a marketing company to begin with, was, hey, if this is going to be one of those things where we're just trying to get as many people in there as possible, my one non-negotiable is this information better be fucking awesome. And I need to have the room to put out awesome information and to be incredibly beneficial, because I don't care about getting in people and having a quick turnaround time. I want to get in people and I want to give them things that can be beneficial to them. So that is taking care of kind of a bigger picture. Let's get as many people learning as humanly possible, because I'll have created content. I'll have coaches that I trust running that content for them, or running them through that content, making sure they understand that, they're absorbing that. I'll be overseeing this on bigger calls and a select number of one-on-ones through there. And then with DDT Method, I have my one-on-one coaching clients. It's your more traditional, like, weekly check-in, no big online portal, no big fancy, I can go through and review and read all this, but you're working with me one-on-one. You're actually texting me, you're calling me, you're getting videos from me, I'm explaining things to you. We have our check-in date, but then we have our follow-ups and everything like that. So obviously I can only handle so many people through that one before it becomes something where it's like, oh, I'm getting too busy. I notice my responses are getting shorter. No, if I don't have the time to sit down and record a video of me explaining what we're doing and why we're doing it and addressing your questions. And like one thing I tell everybody, particularly new clients as I'm learning their body and whatnot, I message me after every workout. Tell me what you liked and what you didn't like. If anything feels weird or bad, send me form videos. Let me take a look at that. Let me break this down. That way I can customize that, truly customize it. Because if somebody just doesn't like something, I want to find out why. Do they not like it because there's something that we can fix, or they just not like it? Then I can change it. And if I don't have the time to do that for everybody, then I have too many people. So that can
100%.
only build to a certain level. So that's where my podcast has come in, which I want to be something that's for everybody. And my biggest thing was there's so much good information out there, but there's so much bad information out there. So if only I had somebody like me when I was 25, 30 years old that could just say, here's one spot to bring you all of this information. I was a big fan, and I still am, of Mark Bell's podcast, because I felt that was a great resource to just bring you a multitude of different information. They'll bring you stuff on keto, on carbohydrates, on bodybuilding, on powerlifting. And I wanted to do something that was along that same vein of being branched out and touching on everything, but a little bit more zeroed in. So here's this person's viewpoint on nutrition, and it's somebody that I already know is an incredibly smart person on nutrition. Here's somebody that's incredibly well-versed in biomechanics. Here's somebody that's incredibly well-versed in the coaching industry. Here's somebody that's pretty good at everything. Here's somebody that's had this unique experience. And let me break this down and do it in a digestible way where you can take something away from it and you can put it into your podcast, or you can put something from the podcast into your life, into your training, into your business, into your nutrition. And to me, that's kind of my passion project now, and it's going to feed everything else. And the future of the business is, what can I do to, I got to make money, I got to take care of my family. I've got these 3 dogs that are expensive as shit, and we want to open a rescue. We want to do all this other stuff. So it's like, well, yeah, like I want to live the life that I want to live, and sometimes that gets expensive. I'm not a bougie person, but you know what? Dogs cost money, and I got a soon to be wife to keep happy, who's getting her doctorate, who makes plenty of money in her own right. But situationally, we got to pay the bills
For sure.
But once that's taken care of, man, like, again, I would do all of this for free. Maybe
Same.
I wouldn't take as many clients, but maybe I would focus more on stuff like the podcast. If one day somebody said, hey, that money thing, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Maybe I would scale down a little bit just to focus more on what can I do for more people. So the podcast, the coaching will continue to grow, and that'll turn into probably more group coaching eventually. And it just becomes like, how can I be a conduit of information? Like, how can I be somebody that people will watch to go, oh, I'm going to try that. And that's why I'll do podcasts on stuff that I'm not doing. And sometimes it piques my interest so much that I start doing it. So I did a podcast on blood flow restriction training with Dr. Mike DeBard, and that was so awesome. I just got a set of blood flow cuffs and started doing it. And I was like, this is great. So
which ones did you get?
So I got his company, the B3 Sciences, which are phenomenal. And I actually have a few different sets of them. Like I have your $15 Amazon, just clasp them on. I've tied them off with just regular knee sleeves before. I have the what's the other one? The power cuffs, the Diamond Dallas Page's DDP yoga cuffs that he started selling just because I thought it was cool that they had a little knob on them. But it's like, I dive into stuff all in. So it's like, I'll call them out by name, but because it's not negative. Like the functional patterns guys, I hate their content. They crap on everybody, and I hate it. Like dude, shut up. Like I don't know the guy. He might be a nice guy. He might not be a nice guy. To me, he comes off like a dick. But I bought their soft kettlebell thing because it seemed cool. Like, let me learn more about this. So you can learn stuff from everybody, and that's what I want to do. To give you a less long-winded answer, I just want to give quality information on things that can help everybody. And if they want to take the ball and run with it, cool. And if it's not for them, hey, tune in next week. We'll have something else. Maybe that one will catch your interest. But I want it to be good information. And I want to do it with good people for the most part. I can't vet everybody. Some people might end up being dicks, but I want to spread the information that good people are putting out there. And at the end of the day, I want to spread good information. And because again, there's so much bad info out there. I just want to leave that out, push that aside.
Yeah. The solution to bad information is good information. That's what I've always believed.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into a little bit of quick hit questions. What's the coolest moment in pro wrestling that you had?
Coolest moment in pro wrestling that I had. There's two, and I'll keep both of these short. So there's three. There's 75. Contrary to popular belief, it's not all super cool or even that cool whatsoever. First really cool moment I had was in Fall River, Massachusetts. The local promotion that I worked for did a show at what was called the Bank Street Armory, which was an old WWF building. And we ended up selling like 2,500 tickets, which was the biggest house that I had ever performed in front of at the time, which was incredible. And they put my tag team partner and I at the time in a triple threat ladder match. And we just did the most insane shit and beat the shit out of each other. And I would not get up from a single one of those bumps today. And we all got a standing ovation at the end of the show. And it was the first time I experienced that. Now that was super cool. The second coolest was my biggest audience ever. It was a close second would be my first WWE dark match. Dark match is when they bring you to a show. It's like a Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, and they try you out, or they just need somebody to lose to somebody. So they take an unsigned local talent, sign the waiver. You go get 6 minutes with which XYZ WWE superstar, and you get to do it in front of like a sold out, Monday Night Raw crowd, which is generally pretty badass. And I think the third one I ever did, because I've done multiple. Third one I ever did was shortly after I got down to Florida at the American Airlines Arena in Miami, which was sold out, and it was something like 16,000 people. And it was a guy that I had broken into training with that had branched off and done his own thing and had also found his way to Florida. And by pure happenstance, they put us in a match on SmackDown. We just had to go out in 6 minutes and lose to the tag team Crime Time. And it was like a live TV crowd. It was, I believe SmackDown was live at the time. And it was the first time ever that I experienced you take a step and you move and you feel the crowd. You feel this like whoosh because everybody's looking at you, and it's gnarly. And the finish was Shad Gaspard, who has since passed away, and in my experience with him was always a great guy. Finish was he goes, what do you want to do for the finish? We got to get something to get you out of there that looks cool. What are you comfortable taking? And I was like, well, whatever, man. You're the contract guy, whatever. And he's like, I got this move where I toss you up in the air, and on the way down I punch you in the face. And I was like, all right, how do I take that? He goes, just put a hand up and try and block the punch. And then one of the other guys walked by me at that time and go, he's never done that before. So I went, I guess we can try. So he's like, let me just make sure I can get you up for that. And I just sandbagged him. I just didn't jump. He's like, can you get up a little higher for that? I'm like, oh no, man, I'm trying. She's like, oh shit, that'll look terrible. How about, what do you want to do? And then 2 years prior, I had wrestled him, and he gave me a military press overhead and just threw me outside the ring. And it got a huge pop from the crowd. And it's an easy bump. It's a big bump, but you got adrenaline. You're landing on the mats outside and whatnot. And I go, you want to do the thing that you did up in Connecticut again? He goes, you're cool taking that? And I'm like, way cooler taking that than the fucking punch in the face on the way fucking down thing. But I'm like, yeah, totally. Let's do that. So the finish was, this guy was close to 7 feet tall, presses me up overhead. Crowd all comes up in Miami. Like, he throws me like a motherfucker. I hit the barricade on the outside. Crowd pops like crazy. And then looking up at the big screen up there, like Titantron or whatever they call it now. And I'm like, holy shit, am I getting a replay? That's so fucking cool. And I'm watching my own replay while I'm on the ground, just marking out for it. That was number 2. And then number 3, I didn't appreciate it at the time, but I was signed. I was in NXT. I was an enhancement talent guy. And they're like, hey, we got it's Joe's first match tonight on TV. It might have been his second, actually, but it was one of his first handful of matches. And they're like, we need you to make him look good. So it's 6 minutes. He's beating the crap out of you. You can get maybe 2 punches in, but like this is our guy. You gotta make him look good, or it's your ass.
Mm-hmm.
And went out there, did it. It went great. Got to the back. So my boss at the time, who I never got to talk to, my real boss was Triple H. I walked back. He passed me on the shoulder. He goes, "Great job." And I went, "Awesome." And then Joe, who that was, is now Roman Reigns, who is like one of the best of all time. And
that's fucking
main
cool,
event
man.
in WrestleMania. And it was just that one at the time. It was like, oh, cool. Triple H said I did a good job. Like, awesome.
Yeah.
Now looking back on it, I'm like, oh shit, I just watched you main event a bunch of WrestleManias. That was pretty fucking dope. Now you're way better than I ever was, but that's fucking cool. So it's probably those 3.
That's fucking sick. Did you have a mustache before it was cool?
So, here's the thing. No, but I couldn't grow a full beard until I was 30 and had already taken copious amounts of testosterone. So I get a 10-year leeway on this because I'm still like, yeah, I get a handicap on the facial hair. So
why do you look like Bono in your glasses? Why are you wearing red glasses?
Here's my thing. All right. Blue light blockers of any type automatically make you more credible no matter what.
These are blue light glasses for sure, man.
Yeah. If you're wearing blue light glasses, you're automatically an authority if you're in the fitness industry. So I have to. I got to wear them.
The last serious question. If you had a billboard on the side of the highway for everyone to read, what would it say?
Don't be a dick.
That's a great one.
That's it. So everybody's, I can go into that for hours, but dude, life's short. Don't be a dick.
If there's someone that you would like to see me interview on the podcast, who would it be? But the caveat is that you have to help me get them on.
Ooh. There's so many good people here. I'm going to say, can I give you 2?
Sure.
All right. First, this one would be a little bit more in just the general education category.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as coaching one-on-one, it might not be the most direct one for your audience, but he is somebody that I think everybody needs to be more familiar with. And that's Anthony Castor.
Oh, I had him on already. He's great.
Ah, son of a bitch. Damn
Dude,
it.
Anthony's the man.
I was like, I got to tell more people about Anthony. Fuck, I didn't see that you interviewed him. All right. So let me go to another underrated. So this isn't my main one. So underrated Adam Brammer, who is the head coach at MI40. Adam does not like to internet, but you can get a hold of him on Instagram. He's Kamal's training partner over there. So he's gotten to train with a lot of high-level pros, and he is just a super underrated wealth of knowledge from both a practical experience and an education standpoint. And I've been on his ass for years to do more stuff online, but he is amazing. And then the other one would be Kasim Hansen from N1. So Kasim is absolutely brilliant, and he is a coach specifically for coaches. So he is a guy that, in terms of really everything, because he can speak on nutrition and he can speak on everything from mitochondrial health to energy systems and whatnot. But in developing a trainer or developing a coach on the training end of it, he is phenomenal. And he used to be really angry all the time, but now he's really not anymore.
He's calmed down a lot.
Like, it's like to the point where I was hanging out with him in Colorado last time I was there, and I was just like, wow, like, I don't know if you found Jesus, Buddha, or whatever, man, but like, oof,
did he have kids?
So no.
Oh, usually that calms guys down.
He has a dog. Maybe that's it. I don't know if he had a dog before, but like, he loves his dog. But I mean, that calmed me down. But nonetheless, so Kasim is like, it's hard for me to say Kasim because it's more so I want to say somebody like Adam that like is so knowledgeable and more people need to hear from. But I don't think Kasim does enough appearances for who he is either. So Kasim or Adam, I would say.
Dude, I would love that. Man, Drew, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today and to share your story. And just chat about how you've used your experiences to build your business. I think these conversations are so valuable for the audience. So thank you so much.
Dude, thank you for having me, man. There's always a part of me that's just like, you want to interview me? Huh? Oh,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
cool.
that never goes away.
I'm doing some stuff. No, and I suspect it never will. But, anytime that you want to talk, man, and you better believe I'm going to have you back on my platform soon so we can kind of have another conversation and deep dive in some other scenarios and whatnot. And I just think, dude, the internet needs more of this. It needs more
100%.
just conversations with a positive direction. And it's just, dude, if you're listening to this, if you're somebody at home, if you're a coach, a trainer, just a recreational fitness enthusiast, if you want me to give it a cool sounding title, man, I just want you to be better. Like, I think we should all just want to be better at what we're doing, and we should all try to help people get better. And that sounds so hippie bullshit, rah, let's all be fucking lovey-dovey, whatever. But I mean, fuck, man, just, it's a cool industry. So let's just make sure it stays cool.
100%. I'll have links to where everyone can find you in the show notes. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, or ring the bell for notifications, and we'll catch you on the next one.